Monday nights have become the regular day in which we discuss the horrendous events witnessed, of course, by James and Joanne Moriarty during their time in Libya. Thank you both for joining me again today. There we go. Okay, we've got James and Joanne Moriarty with us. Hello, how are you guys?
Hello, Jason. Hey, Jason. Thank you for having us on again.
You sound great. You guys look very well lit today.
I've lit a bunch of candles.
Well, it's nice to have you both back. It's funny because the two of you are among the most pleasant and friendly people I've ever met, yet the topic that we're discussing is so horrendous, particularly today. We've got a matter to discuss that is so disturbing, it's almost a little bit difficult to talk about. Can you guys fill us in on exactly what we'll be discussing when we begin at 7:30 on our Patreon only?
We've had one of our patrons has said that we're not giving enough preamble to the videos, and it's real hard to understand what's going on. So we want to try to improve our load up of the information. Sure. And you know, the things that happened to us in Libya have been happening ever since then. So obviously all these videos are so important to prove the false flag and all the war crimes and atrocities, etc. And this video today, you know, I called this young man Superman, not in any disrespect at all, but what was done to him, a lesser man would have died a week before, and this guy continues to live. But he was 17 at the time, too young to be in the military in Libya. And so these young men would take food and supplies to the fighting men that were in remote areas.
The soldiers of Libya, not the mercenaries that were there trying to take over the country.
And this young man and three of his friends were in a little four-wheel drive, and they were driving up the mountain to a remote group of military that were defending their country. Mm-hmm. And in transit, they were hit with an RPG. The little car flipped over. Two of them were killed instantly. He and another guy survived. They shot the other guy, and they decided to play with him. And I'm saying that because these guys were they're just devils. They took him back to their camp. It was near a cave. It was in the hilly area outside of Tripoli. And the people that captured him did not speak Libyan Arabic. And
before you continue, Jimmy, we should warn people watching that what you're about to describe is going to be difficult for a lot of people to hear. It's a detailed account of brutal, inhuman torture that, frankly, anyone sensitive to this type of thing should probably not watch at all.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Let me say something first before he starts on this. When we were in Tripoli, you have to kind of paint a picture. We were there trying to disseminate what was happening, and people were coming to us all the time because we had been on TV a number of times in Libya. We were the only Americans there that weren't either media or trying to do some kind of something else with the rebels. And so
we were also the only people there that were talking correctly about what was going on in Libya. Everybody else just lying like a rug.
So the Libyan people watched us on Dr. Shakir's show. They had all of them watched it at night, and so they would get our name and they would try to contact us through their sources. Every once in a while, someone would show up and say, "You're the Moriartys, and I have someone that really needs to speak to you and tell their story, and would you please come?" And this young man was in Sabrata Hospital, and they said, "You need to go talk to this young man and hear his story." It's horrible.
The conversation in the street, you know, the gossip was, "Oh my gosh, there's a guy that's been castrated, and they made him eat his own testicles, and they tortured him and all this other stuff, you know." And so everybody's trying to find him to videotape him. They want a scoop on this story. And it was a really, you know, it sounded terrible, couldn't be true. All these things could not be true. And then the family of this young man came to us and wanted, again, like in the past videos, wanted the truth about this young man to be told. And so we went to the hospital. Our driver took us there. And again, it's a very, very difficult video to watch, but it is also English question translated to Arabic, answered in Arabic, translated back to English. So the length of the conversations are long.
Right.
The audio quality is not good. We recorded this with a little tiny Sony, half the size of a pack of cigarettes camera. That was our entire AV system. And you'll hear myself and Joanne talking in the background. You'll hear our translator. And the thing about this video is this young man was not a soldier. He was captured by non-Libyans who were there. He recognized their voice as a foreign voice, recognized their clothes as non-Libyan. And so here's a young man that was not a combatant at all, tortured, insanely tortured by these CIA operatives in Libya.
Who were being supported by NATO.
How do we know that they're supported by NATO and that they're CIA operatives?
Because there were weapons that were flowing in there, captured by the Libyan army. They took over the Matiga Air Force Base, flying in everyday airplanes full of mercenaries, full of money. That's the old U.S. military air base outside of Tripoli. This is something that was happening all the time.
We know that they were supporting these rebels, these mercenaries. They brought in about 250,000 of them, and we know that because we saw them bomb the Libyan army. And any time these rebels tried to get into a town, if they didn't get in there, NATO showed up and just bombed it to oblivion.
The French government went and built an airport in the southwest corner of Libya and started flying in their troops and their mercenaries and their mining equipment and everything. It was the most ridiculous thing, because here's a sovereign country that's just absolutely being invaded left, right, and center, all under false premises. And we thought that, gosh, if we could just find some politicians in the United States that would understand we're supporting Al-Qaeda and Muslim Brotherhood, we're wrong-footed in Libya, that one of these politicians say, oh, wow, we need to stop doing that. You know, we were so stupid, literally.
Jason, all the things that we are witness to were proven to us by testimony, by our own sight. We are eyewitnesses to it. The CIA was infiltrated into the media. The CNN lady with the short blonde hair who talked was a CIA operative. She had a big knife on her belt, and Terry Mason was trapped with her at one point in time. And she took him aside. He told me this personally. He said, she took me aside and says, if I ever catch you alone, I'm going to cut your heart out and eat it.
Such a nice woman.
That's the CNN lady, yeah.
We also, in one of the hotels there, we were sitting in the coffee shop, real nice little coffee shop, and we were there, and right behind us in the sofa, backed up tower sofa, there were a couple of journalists, CIA journalists, and they were telephoning in coordinates, latitude and longitude of a military base or two. I mean, it was obvious what they were doing, and we had one of the Libyan security people sitting beside us, and Joanne asked him, do you hear what's going on behind you? He said, yeah, they do it all the time.
Wow.
They were calling in targets.
And we said, why don't you string these people up? And he said, because, this is all a lie, and, the truth in our God will save us.
Wow.
They didn't know who their enemy was,
It was a very naive country. I mean, it was not hard for them to Libya did not understand what was happening.
There was a white-haired Brit that worked for, I think, the New York Times, wasn't it? And he would transmit from the rooftop. Yeah, long white hair. He would transmit from the rooftop of this Rix's Hotel. And one day he was up there, and his transmission was, the best thing for Libya is for somebody to put a bullet in Gaddafi's head. Inside the country, with that kind of a statement, if there was any kind of laws that were upheld, if you did that in the United States, you'd be arrested.
Yeah.
And
now, let me just share a few things with you guys before we carry on, because we've just heard over the weekend, or perhaps last week, that YouTube has changed some things about how YouTube works in their effort to sort of suppress, fake news. And they're not talking about Jim Acosta going and sitting there in the White House press briefing and talking about how, because Robert Mueller arrests or indicts Roger Stone, Jim Acosta thinks that this somehow proves that the president has done something. They don't think that's fake news. They think the types of things that you guys are sharing with us or questioning anything about what happened on 9/11, they consider that fake news. So right now we've only got 106 viewers on YouTube, which is a remarkably low number for any show that I would do. And I think it's particularly low for a show that you two would be on, because the experience we've been having so far is that most people are extremely interested to see and hear what you have to say about your firsthand experiences in Libya. So what we've done to sort of counter these efforts of those that would consider real information about the plight of the people on the ground in Libya is that we've created a show that is available only on Patreon. So I would encourage our viewers right now to go to patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty and sponsor the page there so that they can watch the broadcast that will be beginning at 7:30 Eastern. It can also be seen on patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. And the other thing that we've taken to is, for our Patreon sponsors, we've posted the full-length interviews, and we'll be doing this each week. As Jimmy pointed out, some of these interviews are rather lengthy, and we're putting them here for people who really want to dig into this information, to see the facial expressions and the body language of the family members who are sharing the story of carnage that Jimmy and Joanne heard firsthand during their time there in Libya. And really, for people who want to go through, all this material will be posted on Patreon, and we're putting it there on both patreon.com/crowdsource the truth and on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty, because in the past, when the Moriartys have attempted to post this information, it just gets pulled down from YouTube. Their YouTube channels get canceled, etc. People need to do things like going to LibyanWarTheTruth.com and purchasing the DVD that James and Joanne have created, because everything has been done to soft kill and blacklist the Moriartys, to prevent them from doing business, to prevent them from sharing this information. And I got to tell you something, having only 98 viewers right now is really remarkably low. I think something is happening to prevent this from being shared throughout YouTube.
Jason, the fact is that these videos are raw intelligence. We videoed them. There is absolutely no question. The timing, the videos, the exposure of the lies and misrepresentations by the media, and the collusion with the government of the United States, the UN, and NATO for a false flag operation, these become painfully obvious. And the bad guys, CIA, Mossad, MI6, Sûreté, they've been trying to get these from us since we escaped from Al-Qaeda's hands in early first days of September 2011. And we knew the value of these, and so we've had them secreted all over the world. You're the first person we could trust enough to turn those over to, so that we could get them in a format so that they could be put out. They have not been edited at all. They're long, they're difficult to watch, the translations aren't good, and we're not going to edit these. We're not going to clean them up, because that removes the raw characteristic of these videos. So please bear with us. It's not necessary to know every single word these people said. What's important is to understand that this body of evidence proves the false flag operation in Libya. It proves the war crimes. It proves the atrocities.
Yeah.
Take that and go to our site as well. And hopefully we've gotten the site cleaned up. We've been hacked so many times. And resubscribe, because we had to wipe out all 70,000 subscribers because we had so many bad ones in there. So please go back and resubscribe. It's a free site.
We've been hacked so many times, there were too many bots. And the guy that was the person that was trying to help us clean up the site said, you have to get rid of all of them. He said, this is a mess. They've attacked the site so many times.
We're minutes away from wrapping up this YouTube preview and resuming on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be there at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Texas time. People in the chat, Jimmy and Joanne, are asking me some questions right now. How much does it cost? It's as little as $1 per month. Someone could choose to just sponsor Jimmy and Joanne for $1 a month, or sponsor Crowdsource the Truth for $1 a month, or sponsor both for $1 a month. If you only have $2, please sponsor Jimmy and Joanne. And $2 is really the best minimum sponsorship. I say this because when I went to PatreonCon, the Patreon convention where they shared all this information with me, I learned that when someone sponsors on Patreon for $1 per month, the credit card processing fees and the money that goes to Patreon results in Jimmy and Joanne or I getting just 67 cents of that dollar. If somebody goes to $2 a month, the contribution becomes $1.54. So it's a dramatic increase in the amount of your money that goes to Jimmy and Joanne or to me. And of course, the site to go to is patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty. That's the Patreon page.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I don't take any of that money. This is money that goes directly to Jimmy and Joanne. So please become a sponsor on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty. And keep in mind that Crowdsource the Truth is also a viewer-supported resource. And without your sponsorship, I'm not able to continue. Crowdsource the Truth has been coming under attack. And your financial sponsorship is more important than ever. Guys, let's do this.
Let me real quick.
Yeah.
Let me real quick tell him what happened to this young man.
Sure.
He was captured. They castrated him. They forced him to ingest his own testicles. They took a long, big knife, stabbed it in his thigh, and left it there. They split him from chin down to his groin, split him open, had him laying on the ground, and everybody in that camp would come and urinate in his abdomen.
Oof.
And they broke his arm from the wrist up.
Oof.
It had about 15 or 16 breaks on one arm. I think they broke his other wrist. They ended up trying to kill him, and they shot him through the eye with a 9mm to kill him, and he's still alive.
My God. And you know, it's not immediately visible in the photograph that I'm showing right now, but if we zoom in, let me see if people can see this.
His right eye is gone.
His right eye is
stitched closed, but yet he still has kind of a smile on his face. This is truly an amazing individual. I think most people would lose the will to live after the type of torture that you're talking about.
You know, being split from stem to stern like he was, nobody lives through that. You know, the fact he's got one leg paralyzed, they left the knife in him. But they'll see all this, Don, but they need to know what this guy has gone through.
And
that's
just to set people's minds at ease, we aren't showing any of the video of him being attacked. We don't have that. We're not showing that. This is going to be the two of you visiting him in the hospital and interviewing him. So let's wrap up here on YouTube and get everything set to begin in just 11 and a half minutes on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty. And patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I want to thank all of our generous Patreon sponsors. We'll see everybody in just 11 minutes on Patreon. Thanks for watching.